Good morning. Today I want you to remember one powerful truth: you are not obligated to welcome back those who shattered your spirit. The pain you carry was not an accident. It was inflicted with intent. They knew what they were doing. And yet here you stand, scarred but still breathing, broken but not buried. You owe them nothing. This is your time to rise with strength, to protect your peace, and to stop romanticizing betrayal. Forgiveness does not mean access. Love does not mean tolerance. And healing does not mean returning to what hurt you. This is your line in the sand. Draw it with fire. My dear friends, I need you to understand something today. With all the intensity your heart can hold, pain delivered intentionally is not a mistake. It wasn't a slip of the tongue. It wasn't just a bad day. It wasn't confusion or misunderstanding. When someone chooses to hurt you, belittle you, betray your trust, or tear down your spirit, they do it knowing the weight of their actions. They may mask it with charm or silence afterward, but deep down they knew. They calculated your reactions. They watched you bleed, and they didn't stop. This is not about holding grudges. This is about clarity. We must stop making excuses for people who weaponized our love and our loyalty. When they aimed to break your spirit, that was a choice. Don't dilute your truth for the sake of their comfort. Their actions weren't an accident, they were deliberate, and they left you carrying a pain that changed you. Own that reality before you allow anyone to twist it. You see, healing doesn't begin with pretending they didn't mean it. Healing starts with acknowledging that they did. When we minimize their intent, we silence the very voice that's trying to protect us. We begin to gaslight ourselves, rewriting history to make room for someone who never valued our heart in the first place. And I say this with fire in my chest: stop apologizing for your anger. Stop quieting your pain to be the bigger person. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is speak the truth out loud. They hurt you, and they meant to. They saw your light and chose to dim it. They saw your softness and used it as a weapon. That is not love. That is not care. That is a wound they created, not one you deserved. The moment you begin to face that without flinching, you take your power back one heartbeat at a time. Too often we confuse compassion with self-betrayal. We think kindness means giving second chances to people who shattered us like glass. But my dear friends, compassion does not mean walking back into the fire that burned you. You are allowed to say, I see what you did and I won't let you do it again. That is not cruelty. That is courage. That is the kind of self-love that stops generational pain in its tracks. When you acknowledge their intent, you stop the cycle. You stop allowing apologies soaked in manipulation. You stop letting them define your worth by their inability to treat you with decency. You begin to rebuild yourself with bricks made of truth. And truth, no matter how painful, is your salvation. It is the soil where your strength grows. Let me be clear: someone who damages you intentionally is not your responsibility to fix. It is not your job to show them the light when they have chosen the dark. You cannot teach someone to love you properly by letting them mistreat you repeatedly. You teach them nothing by staying. In fact, you validate their actions by returning. You tell them you'll tolerate the cuts as long as they come with a smile. But you deserve more than that. You deserve to wake up and feel safe in your own heart. You deserve to look in the mirror and not question your value based on someone else's inability to hold you with care. You are not too sensitive. You are not too emotional. You are human, and you were harmed. Now it's time to heal, not by forgetting, but by remembering exactly how it happened and refusing to relive it. So no, don't give them a second chance, not when the first one was a knife. Not when your tears became the soundtrack to their indifference. This isn't about vengeance. It's about protection. Your peace, your future, your joy deserve to be guarded like sacred ground. You have the right to walk away, to stay away, and to never look back. That isn't bitterness. That is survival. That is wisdom earned through pain. And while they may never own what they did, you can own what you'll never accept again. You can draw the line and say, this is where it ends. Because once you recognize the intentional harm, you begin to understand that boundaries are not walls to keep love out, they are shields to keep poison away. My dear friends, you need to know today that boundaries are not punishments, they are sacred acts of self-respect. When someone has damaged you intentionally, your response cannot be silence and access, it must be distance and clarity. You do not build walls to keep love out, you build boundaries to keep destruction away. Every time you say no more, you are choosing yourself. And let me tell you, choosing yourself after being broken is the loudest kind of strength. People who truly care for you will honor your boundaries because they understand that love without respect is manipulation. But those who damage you will call your boundaries cold, selfish, dramatic. That's because they benefited from your lack of them. They fed off your people-pleasing. They grew stronger while you got smaller. Boundaries aren't betrayal, they are protection. They're the voice you silenced for too long finally rising and saying, enough. You were not made to carry everyone's comfort on your back while your soul collapsed under the weight. You are not here to shrink yourself so someone else feels taller. The moment you start enforcing your boundaries, some people will show you exactly why they needed to be there in the first place. They'll resist, they'll guilt trip, they'll gaslight. And that, my dear friends, is how you know your boundary is working. Because those who were only loyal to their access to you will never clap for your freedom. But let them go. Let them leave. You're not hard to love, you're just no longer easy to use. And you should never apologize for making it harder for people to hurt you. That's not cruelty. That's wisdom. Boundaries aren't barriers to connection, they are the bridges to peace. If someone cannot meet you where you stand with respect and care, then they were never meant to walk beside you. Your boundaries are the evidence that you've learned, that you've bled, that you've risen from places you never thought you'd escape. They are born from the nights you cried yourself to sleep, from the mornings you had to convince yourself to get up, from the moments you swore you wouldn't survive, but somehow did. Your boundaries aren't bitterness, they are born from growth. You didn't become guarded for no reason. You became guarded because you finally understood that love without safety is a prison. You finally understood that second chances without accountability become open invitations for repeated harm. So do not be ashamed of the lines you draw. Draw them boldly. Draw them in fire if you have to. And let them be a warning to anyone who thinks they can cross your soul without consequence. Sometimes the hardest boundary to set is with the person who once held your heart, the one who knew your fears and used them, the one who read your silence like a map and still led you into chaos. But that person does not deserve endless access to you. You owe them nothing, not a reply, not a seat at your table, not a place in your future. Because healing means recognizing that protecting your peace will require you to disappoint some people. Let them be disappointed. You are not responsible for how someone reacts to your decision to honor yourself. That is their journey. Yours is to rebuild the home inside you where only love, respect, and truth are welcome. Your boundaries are not just for others, they are your vow to never again abandon yourself for anyone. And when they try to guilt you, remind yourself of this: you are no longer available for people who cannot love you without hurting you. You are not accessible to those who once mistook your softness for permission to destroy you. Stand tall. Speak clearly. Let your boundaries be the shield your younger self prayed for. Let them be the answer to the question you used to ask in the dark: will anyone ever protect me? Yes, now you will. And that protection, that unshakable shield of self-respect, will guide you as you learn to release what no longer feeds your growth. Because true growth demands that you cut off what poisons you, no matter how deeply it once touched your soul. My dear friends, growth is not always gentle. Sometimes it demands that you cut ties with the very people you once believed you couldn't live without. Sometimes growth feels like grief, because you're shedding parts of your life that once felt like home, even when that home was built on chaos. When someone has damaged you intentionally, you don't owe them a place in your healing. You don't owe them a seat at your table just because they shared your past. Your growth cannot bloom in poisoned soil. You cannot keep watering relationships that drown your spirit. You deserve more than survival. You deserve to thrive. But thriving requires one brave decision: walking away from what keeps you small. Stop trying to fix what's meant to be removed. Some ties are meant to be severed, not salvaged. And though it may ache, your soul knows the difference between healing and hurting disguised as comfort. It's not weakness to let go. It's wisdom. And it's time we stop romanticizing struggle as proof of loyalty. Your loyalty should never be a weapon used against you. Staying in the presence of someone who has repeatedly chosen to harm you does not make you noble. It keeps you stuck in cycles, stuck in pain, stuck in places where your light keeps dimming. Growth requires bravery. It requires leaving behind comfort zones that no longer offer comfort. You were not born to constantly explain your worth. You were not made to keep proving your value to people who benefit from your doubt. You are not obligated to stay loyal to someone who watched you break and did nothing but add weight to your wounds. It's time to turn inward and ask yourself the hardest question of all. Is holding on saving me, or is it slowly destroying me? The people who damaged you may not understand why you're walking away, and they don't have to. Growth is not a group decision. Sometimes the most courageous thing you'll ever do is walk alone for a while. But that loneliness, it's not punishment. Every step you take away from what poisons you is a step toward peace. You are not abandoning anyone. You are choosing to stop abandoning yourself. And yes, it will be hard. Yes, you will miss the memories, the good moments. But do not let a few golden hours blind you to the years of suffering you endured. You are not weak for walking away. You are powerful. You are choosing life. You are choosing clarity. You are choosing to no longer make a home in a place that burned you to the ground and blamed you for the ashes. Let your growth offend those who preferred you broken. Let your evolution disturb those who thrived on your silence. Because the ones who truly love you will never fear your growth. They will celebrate it. And you will rise, not by returning to what hurt you, but by releasing it fully. Let the pain teach you. Let the lesson shape you. But do not stay stuck trying to fix the very thing that was meant to free you. I write in the book, I had to say your lessons, your things, your person, your sin, your values, your lessons, your sins, your pain, your problem, your struggles, your sin, your values, your vision, your purpose, your strength, your love, your hope. The next step in your journey is not about who you walk with. It's about how much lighter your soul feels when you're no longer dragging the weight of what was never meant to stay. And in that lightness, in that clarity, you will discover something sacred. Closure is not something they give you. It is something you create. My dear friends, closure is not something they give you. It is something you claim. So many of us wait, hoping the person who hurt us will one day offer apologies or explanations that will somehow mend the broken pieces inside. We stand at the edge of that hope, trembling, believing that if only they acknowledge the damage, we will finally find peace. But the truth is, Waiting for their words or actions to heal you is waiting for a storm to clear that may never pass. Closure is a sacred act of self-liberation. It is the moment you decide that your healing is not dependent on anyone else's willingness to face their truth. You do not need their permission to release the pain, to close the chapter, or to rewrite your story. Your peace is yours to own, not a gift to be earned. Holding on to the idea that closure must come from them keeps you trapped in limbo. It keeps your heart tethered to a past filled with unanswered questions and broken promises. But your soul deserves more than that limbo. It deserves the freedom that comes from taking back control. When you claim your own closure, you decide to stop replaying the pain on a loop. You tell yourself, I will no longer wait in the shadows of their choices. I will step into my own light. This is not an easy path, but it is a powerful one. It means you recognize your worth beyond the hurt inflicted. It means you accept that their refusal to acknowledge their wrongs is not a reflection of your value, but a reflection of their limitations. Your closure is your declaration that you will no longer let their silence hold your voice hostage. We often confuse closure with reconciliation, thinking that healing requires a conversation, a handshake, or a sign that they regret what they did. But closure does not demand their involvement. It demands your courage. The courage to face the pain head-on without the safety net of their apology. To look at your scars and say, I am more than what happened to me. When you claim closure on your own terms, you dismantle the power that person's actions had over you. You stop allowing their mistakes to dictate your future. You stop carrying their weight like a cross on your back. Instead, you place it down. You put down the burden of waiting and wondering. You pick up the tools to rebuild stronger and wiser than before. My dear friends, claiming your closure is an act of reclaiming your narrative. It is refusing to be the victim forever and choosing to be the survivor. It means recognizing that your story is still being written and you hold the pen. No matter how painful the chapters before, you have the power to write new pages filled with hope, strength, and self-love. Closure is not about forgetting what happened or pretending the pain never existed. It is about accepting the truth and deciding that the pain will not define you. It is about setting down the heavy chains of resentment and anger that keep you bound to your past. When you claim your closure, you are saying yes to your future and no to being stuck in what broke you. Understand that closure can come in many forms: through a journal, through therapy, through conversations with those who truly support you, or even through moments of quiet reflection alone. It is a deeply personal process, and only you know what it looks like for you. But whatever form it takes, it is a powerful step toward freedom. It is a promise to yourself that you will not live in the shadow of someone else's choices any longer. You are choosing to walk forward lighter and more whole. This is your sacred right. This is your strength. This is your power. And so, my dear friends, if you are still waiting for closure to come from those who damaged you intentionally, I urge you to stop. Don't wait for them to show up in the way you hope or expect. Claim your peace now. Take back your power. Close that chapter on your terms. Because the moment you do, you will find a clarity that no apology can give. You will begin to understand that forgiveness does not require reconciliation and healing does not require their presence. Your peace, your happiness, and your future depend on you taking this step not for them, but for yourself. And with this newfound clarity, you will be ready to embrace the next stage of your journey, where forgiveness becomes a gift you give yourself, not a bridge you build for someone else. My dear friends, forgiveness does not require reconciliation. This is a truth that shakes the foundation of how we often think about healing. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself to release the heavy chains of anger, bitterness, and pain that weigh down your soul. But reconciliation, that is a choice to re-engage with the person who hurt you, and it is not a requirement for forgiveness. Too many of us confuse the two and stay trapped in toxic cycles, waiting to rebuild bridges that were burned intentionally. Forgiveness frees you, it does not bind you. It is an act of self-love, not a ticket to return to a place where your heart was once broken. You can forgive and still say no to their presence in your life. You can forgive and still protect your peace fiercely. When you forgive without reconciling, you reclaim your power. You say to yourself, I will no longer carry the burden of this pain. But you also say, I will not let anyone walk through my door who does not respect my healing. Forgiveness is about unshackling your heart from past wounds. It's about creating space inside you where peace and strength can grow. But reconciliation demands trust, and trust must be earned. It's okay to forgive someone and still choose to keep them at a distance if they have shown they cannot honor your boundaries. Forgiveness doesn't erase what was done, nor does it erase the lessons learned. It simply means you are no longer willing to be a prisoner of their mistakes. It means you are ready to step into your future unburdened by hatred. My dear friends, forgiveness is often misunderstood as weakness or submission. But the truth is, it is one of the strongest acts of courage you can perform. It takes bravery to look at the person who damaged you intentionally and say, I will not let your actions destroy me anymore. But that bravery does not demand that you rebuild a connection with them. Forgiving someone who hurt you deeply is about reclaiming your emotional freedom. It is about choosing peace over pain, and in doing so, you protect your heart from carrying a permanent grudge, which only prolongs your suffering. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, a balm for your soul, and a step toward true healing. But remember, healing is not about erasing boundaries, it is about strengthening them. It's important to understand that reconciliation is a process, not a promise. It requires accountability, change, and respect. Many times, people who damaged us intentionally are not ready or willing to do this work, and that's okay. You don't need to wait for their readiness to claim your peace. You don't need to hold your life hostage, waiting for apologies or promises of change. Forgiveness does not mean you are saying, come back. Forgiveness means you are saying, I am ready to let go of the pain you caused me. It means you are ready to heal with or without them. And that healing, my dear friends, is your most sacred responsibility to yourself. You owe no one access to your heart that doesn't come with respect and care. Forgiveness also allows you to break cycles of pain. When you forgive without reconnecting, you refuse to pass down the hurt to future versions of yourself or to the people around you. You stop feeding the fire of resentment that only consumes your joy. And in that act, you teach others, especially those who witness your journey, that healing means growing beyond what broke you. It means reclaiming your life and your happiness on your own terms. So do not feel pressured to reconcile simply because society or even your own heart urges it. True healing honors your boundaries and prioritizes your well-being above all else. Remember, my dear friends, you have the right to decide who walks beside you in your journey forward. Forgiving someone who intentionally damaged you is about freeing yourself from the prison of pain, not reopening the gates to suffering. You can forgive deeply and still protect yourself fiercely. You can love yourself enough to say no to toxic cycles and yes to a future that honors your peace. Forgiveness is the bridge you build inside your soul to move from hurt to healing. Reconciliation is the choice to cross that bridge with someone else, and that choice belongs solely to you. And when you embrace this truth, you open the door to a new chapter, where healing becomes not just possible. Now, as you hold this powerful understanding in your heart, prepare to step into the next truth that will guide your journey. The truth that your future deserves people who choose you without cruelty. My dear friends, your future deserves people who choose you without cruelty. After the storms of pain and betrayal, after the long nights of questioning your worth, you must hold this truth close. Your heart is a sacred garden, and only those who nurture it with kindness deserve to enter. Too often we accept scraps of love from those who once wounded us, hoping their presence will somehow heal the scars. But healing does not come from those who cause the wounds. It comes from those who see your worth and celebrate your growth. Your future is not a place for second chances to those who intentionally damaged you. It is a sanctuary reserved for respect, loyalty, and genuine care. You must learn to recognize the difference between love that heals and love that harms disguised as care. Sometimes people return with promises of change, soft words masking hardened hearts, but love that wounds is not love. It is control dressed as affection. Do not be fooled by apologies that lack accountability or gestures that come with conditions. Your soul has carried enough pain. It deserves unconditioned respect. When you surround yourself with people who choose you with kindness, your spirit begins to bloom again. Those who truly value you do not ask you to prove your worth. They accept you fully. Your future is a sacred space, and the people you allow in must honor that sacredness. Choosing people who select you without cruelty means setting uncompromising standards. It means refusing to settle for less than you deserve, even if it means standing alone for a time. Solitude is not loneliness when it is chosen for self-respect. It is a powerful declaration that you will not sacrifice your peace for companionship. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to say no to familiar faces that carry familiar pain. Saying no to those who damaged you intentionally is not cruelty, it is protection. It is an act of fierce love for yourself. Remember, the space you create by letting go is not empty. It is fertile ground for new, healthy relationships that uplift your soul. My dear friends, do not underestimate the power of choosing wisely who walks with you into your future. Your past may have been filled with betrayal, but your future is filled with promise. You are worthy of connections that build you up, not tear you down. People who choose you without cruelty will not only respect your boundaries, but will celebrate your journey. They will be your cheerleaders. They will listen without judgment and love without conditions. Your future is a garden waiting to be tended by those who see your light and refuse to dim it. It is your responsibility and your right to protect that garden fiercely. This choice to surround yourself with kindness, respect, and loyalty is a revolutionary act after you have been hurt. It means refusing to repeat cycles of pain. It means believing in your own worth even when the world has tried to convince you otherwise. Your future is not about revenge or bitterness. It is about reclaiming joy and peace. It is about building a life where your heart is safe and your spirit is free. When you choose people who value you without cruelty, you affirm that you are no longer willing to accept anything less than love that nurtures your soul. And that, my dear friends, is the foundation of true healing. As you embrace this truth, know that it will not always be easy. The temptation to return to familiar patterns, to reopen doors that should remain closed will be strong. But remember, your future is your sanctuary. Protect it with fierce love. Trust that the people who are meant to be in your life will walk through doors you open, not windows you desperately climb through. Your worth is not negotiable, and your peace is non-negotiable. When you honor this, you create space for a future where love is a source of strength, not pain. This is your promise to yourself, that from this moment forward, you will only accept the love that chooses you freely, kindly, and without cruelty. In conclusion, my dear friends, Never give them a second chance to damage you intentionally. You are worthy of respect, love, and peace that do not come with strings or pain. Set boundaries fiercely and honor yourself by walking away from those who hurt you. Growth sometimes means cutting ties and claiming your own closure without waiting for their permission. Forgiveness is your gift to yourself and does not require reconciliation. Above all, choose people who select you without cruelty for your future. Your journey is one of courage and self-love. Protect your heart, reclaim your power, and step boldly into the life you deserve.